Welcome to the farm.
Welcome to the farm. I'm Justin, and today we're gonna do a little bit more on our metal workbench. For the most part, it's complete, but I do have an issue with some warping. So we're gonna work on taking care of that today. Let's get started. So in order to fix the warping problem, I'm gonna weld underneath the table in the center to the center supports to try to pull that down and pull that warp out. I really don't want to do it overhead, so I'm going to flip the table over. Unfortunately, I don't have a nice flat floor to lay it on. I have uneven dirt, so I need to make myself basically a fake floor, flip this thing over on top so I can do the welding and be able to keep the tabletop at a nice, flat, even surface. Next, I need to grind off all the paint and rust in the areas I'm going to want to make my stitch welds. And unfortunately, with the tabletop already welded on, it was really hard to get into that corner and really clean that corner. But since I'm using a flux cord wire, it's not as critical to get the paint out. And I should still be able to get a nice weld and just kind of burn the paint off as I go. But that being said, I still want to clean as much as I can so I can get a nice good start to that weld on some nice bare steel. All right, now that I got a few areas kind of cleaned up where we can hopefully get some welds in the center here, we need to weigh this thing down to try to pull that warp out. So let's go get our weight. After looking at my setup, I decided I wasn't overly happy with it. I wanted to add another support going across the center, since that's where most of the warping is, and I feel like the plywood can flex too much, so I'm going to add another 4x4 across the center to give that center something to really hold against. Now that we got all the prep work done, and I'm happy with how stable the workbench is on the 3 4x4s and plywood, we can start welding it in. However, these center braces are about a 1/4 inch thinner than the outside braces, so there's about a 1/4 inch gap between the tabletop and the center braces. So what I'm going to do is take some scrap I have left over from building my rock bucket, slide that in underneath, and use that as a filler. And then I can just weld everything in. And using that 1/4 inch spacer scrap steel worked perfectly. And now I can just repeat the process on all the other spots. Well, I can tell you one thing. This is a heavy workbench. But let's see how our little repair worked. Obviously, we don't have any, up and down like we did before. But let's grab a straight edge, lay it across here, and see what we got. Really, it's looking pretty good. I got 3 spots where it kind of dips down in between. There's one right here, and one right here. But it's so small. I think the 2 side ones are maybe like a 1/16 of an inch, and the center one's maybe an 1/8 of an inch out. So it kind of does that a little bit. But for what I'm going to do with this workbench, I think this is going to work great, and it's going to be nice and solid and heavy duty. And I think what I'm going to do, it's a little cold for it. You can see my breath. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over again. I'm going to throw on the heater. I'm going to clean off the bottom side of this and throw a little bit of paint on it, and then touch up the spots the paint burned on the front here, just to kind of protect it. And If it doesn't hold, it doesn't hold. I'll repaint it when it warms up. So let's get going on that. Basically, the process for what I'm going to do painting-wise is going to be the same as I did last time. You take a wire wheel on the grinder, go around all the frames, clean off all the rust and debris first. Then I'll blow off all the debris I can with the air compressor. Next, I'll take acetone and wipe everything down real good, so that way I can get all the impurities off, all the dust, the dirt, rust, oils, anything that might keep the paint from adhering. We'll get that all cleaned off. Yeah, now we can make it look all pretty with some nice flat black paint. And then I'll just repeat the same process on top to cover up the paint I burned off. Alright, well I think the mobile workbench is 100% complete now. Paint's still wet, I'm sure you can see it kind of glaring. So as soon as I'm done recording here, I'm going to throw that heater back on to bake this paint on because the barn gets really cold really quick. It's not insulated. You can see through it in a lot of places, so it gets really cold really quick, as you can see. So, once I'm done with this, we'll throw the heater on, bake the paint on, see how that holds up. We may have to revisit that in spring if it's peeling off because it didn't adhere, whatever. That's fine, we can deal with it. I would like to thank Ross from Ross in the Land. He actually suggested when I was putting the top on and welding all the way around that I come back and I check to see if it's warped, which it was, and he suggested that I add weight to it to bring it down and then stitch weld in the center, which I gotta say worked great. I'm really happy with it. Still got a little bit of warpage to it, but way better than it was, and it doesn't have that pop to it anymore. It's nice and stable. So thank you, Ross. I'll put a link to his channel down in the description. Please go check him out. And I think that'll be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye. There we go.